Welcome to Inner Voice of Knowing podcast. I'm Kaye, a shamanic leadership coach and healer, guiding you through life with a foot in both worlds. When you understand the terrain of the inner landscapes, the mental, emotional, spiritual and energetic, you will become the leader within your physical life, both personally and professionally. After all, the power of change is in your hands. Let's get this journey started. Welcome back to Inner Voice of Knowing. I'm always doing depth. I apply everything that I speak about, that I coach about, that I write about. I walk the talk. My experience is forged by living and applying, living and breathing everything that I teach. And I'm impassioned by it because I know it works. And then imparting that wisdom, helping show the way, being the guide through all the ways that I work with speaking, with podcasting, with writing, with facilitating, with healings, and with my coaching programs. I'm able to guide the way and help you understand the landscape and the language so that you can know where you are and be so finely tuned into your inner voice of knowing, power and potential, source, soul, successful self, that you really do lead yourself as a leader within your life. And as I've been doing my own personal journey of expanding my capacity for more, honouring the aspiration, the soul calling of the next version of myself, I've been coming to understand even more deeply the power, the necessity of elements that are required to actually do that. And one of them is what I'm going to call radical self-honesty. Radical, why? Because it's got to go beyond the surface. It needs to be the power of questioning, of taking an experience of something and doing the deep reflection. Growth requires the willingness for depth, for presence, for honesty, of self-responsibility, of consistency, which is key. Because if you only have momentarily those components to it, but you don't have consistency built into it, you're just playing around the edges. And I've gone through a process myself where my past, remembering I'm 61, is fully integrated now. All those different aspects of what people would call the wounded child have been attended to, brought in through love, compassion, understanding and forgiveness. All the painful experiences, the perceptions have changed, the stories have been rewritten. There's been a deep reclamation. And I went through a shamanic process in someone else's workshop that I felt very, very called to, and now I know why. Because this was confirmed for me. So I stand very present in the moment now with the next journey of growth, of depth, of expansion before me, carrying none of my past as a burden within me. That's the integration. all aspects through love, compassion, understanding, and forgiveness, which brings us to the freedom. I experienced on the weekend an incredible journey, a release, a regathering, an expansion, a settling in what felt like being home. And as I was growing up, being home felt like when I was on the cusp of leaving this body. Being home now is being so comfortable with all the shadow aspects of myself, with behaviours, responses, reactions, every element of me brought into depth of acceptance. Like I said, love, compassion, understanding, and forgiveness, the reclaiming, the bringing into, the listening to, the acknowledging, the validating, everything that I speak and teach about. I have been living and walking and talking and applying all my life since I brought depth of awareness into it. And it has taken radical honesty. It's been a human journey. I've always said, I'm perfectly imperfect and horribly human. And I say that now with so much depth and love and acceptance because I recognize all parts of myself. I didn't know this is the point where I would reach right now. And it doesn't mean there's not more becoming. Become in. I will always be moving inwardly, accessing, bringing radical questioning and honesty to be able to fuel myself to move forwards in the manner that I aspire to, then in my external world. Therein lies true leadership. When we know and carry the presence of our true power. And that sense of internal power increases as we increase our capacity to keep bringing radical honesty into ourselves and then from ourselves, more deeply aligning our integrity, our values, how we move through the world, speak in the world, be in the world, therefore the truth of energetic presence. Because it's not just words. Words are directed by and carried throughout this world by the integrity and the intention that's embedded in them. Everything is energy. Soul and energy first, remember, listeners. So words can be empty. Words can be false. Words can just be words. They can carry an impact, that's for sure, if they're unkind words. The rock and the feather, remember. But when we live a life of radical honesty, of moving into greater depths of awareness and expansiveness of who we are, how we express, how we move through the world, we truly do become the empowered leaders from the inside out. And this isn't just for personal life, a personal reality. This is in business as well, because we're not just in a life of business, we're in the business of life, and the two worlds cannot be separate. It's one world. One way of being and expressing. And the journey is about more deeply aligning. And this takes that radical honesty. It takes the willingness. It takes the boundary setting. And the boundaries are for us. And they're up to us to communicate. It takes radical honesty in not putting projections onto others, the willingness to see and to sit in the discomfort of who we've been, who we're being, how we're being in any given circumstance. And we always bring love, compassion, understanding, and forgiveness into it, because therein lies our freedom. You've heard me say this before. But it also takes consistency. I have a saying when you start a 12-week program, coaching program with me, one of the things, there's a list of, rules for the game, which are really for the game of life, for yourself, and how we choose and how much we choose to actually show up for ourselves. And one of them is the guarantee that I give. Wait for it. The guarantee is, how much will you show up for yourself? Because that will determine how much change you create within yourself. How much change will happen, therefore, in your outer circumstances and outer world. So you get on the playing field, the coaching field with me, and you show up 100%. The proof is in previous clients, you will get 100% results. You show up 50%, 50% results. Because this is the rule of the game of life and of business, because it's all one. We don't have separate ways of being. We're not meant to have separate ways of being, because they're the masks. Oh, I'll be like this because I'm a parent. I'll be like this because I'm a partner. And a lot of people bring nastiness into relationship because of the depth of the mirror, therefore how we feel triggered from the depth of misalignment within ourselves. And then the mask that's worn with how you show up professionally. At the end of the day, it's how do you show up authentically, coherently, in harmonic resonance. And that harmonic resonance, that frequency that you live from, that you move from, that you speak from, your presence amplifies through the journey of radical honesty, self-questioning, taking on responsibility for who and how you show up in the world, and the consistency. So if you're just starting out and you're taking on 2 ways to change, 2 ways to grow, 2 ways to move through your current comfort zone, 2 ways to expand your capacity. Let's say, for example, the heart intelligence breathing that I teach, that is so simple, so powerful. I've used it in professional environments, and I use it every single day within my life. But it's like when you go to the gym. It takes the consistency for the strength and the transformation to take place. But you can't go in all hell for leather. You start gently and you work your way up, and then you increase. I'll do more exercises. And you look at the different parts of yourself. You do legs, you do arms, you do back. You're strengthening all the different elements of your physicality. So what we're doing in this spiritual journey is, again, strengthening the mind and growing new neural pathways through the choices of how we think and how we use our mind emotionally. The physical is part of it. The energetic, spiritual principles that we apply, the ability to learn to reconnect with ourselves energetically, soulfully, and create that heart-brain coherence, that harmonic resonance to deepen and develop our presence from alignment. So when you're just starting out, you might do something like the heart intelligence breathing, and you might look in the mirror and deep into your eyes and speak to yourself in a kinder, more loving, deep, reverent way to override the negative inner dialogue that's destructive to how you think and how you feel and how you move in this world. And as those two processes prove to be of benefit to you, where you see and feel not only the responses and the changes within yourself, you see it mirrored back to you from the world around you, that you yourself are consciously crafting and creating and affecting and projecting from within yourself onto the movie screen called your life. Then you'll add in another element of change, and you will consistently work with that. And there will come a time where you stop, you put it down, and you try on the old ways. That's perfect too. That is to show you that no longer fits. That way of being never served you other than to educate you into what aspects of yourself you're ignoring, discarding, the masks that you were wearing, the plays that you were performing in. So they no longer serve you now. So you go, okay, confirmation again, this is working. And you build up your toolbox. But it takes the consistency and the speed at which you move through your change and the ease at which you move through your change is the key of consistency. Will you consistently, let's say, do your journaling? And journaling is powerful. It's not performative. Journaling is not where you have to just write nice things. Journaling is exactly how you feel, raw and real. Whatever you want to say, whatever you need to express, you put it down on paper. You stop it from recycling within your mind. You ground it, you anchor it. It's a release. Then the insights might flow. It's not performative. We don't bring judgment to it. It has a powerful purpose for you. Consistency. My consistency with journaling is, yes, if I need to vent and express, I do. If I need to write about an experience that I've had, it anchors it. I always write in my journal my gratitudes. Not necessarily just my daily ones. I will express those when I'm on my nature walk. But I anchor my future gratitudes as if they've already been received. The gratitudes around my life now and what I'm moving into, what I'm creating. And the gratitudes and gifts about myself for self-acknowledgement. Okay? You can also then write just things from the day. I sometimes include that. It's an anchoring. It quietens the mind. It's a release and an acknowledgement. Doing gratitudes grows new neural pathways. It says to the field, what people call the quantum field, or I like to call it the creative field, it says to the field, regardless of whatever you call it, I am receptive. I'm in deep appreciation, whether it's a feather or whether it's $100,000, whether it's a friendship that is stable and true, whether it's my grandchild that said something sweet and gave me a hug. We don't measure it in its vastness. We receive it with gratitude. We are acknowledging to the universe. We're giving the universe a nod. All of this is my abundance. And I am a vessel of receptivity. And in receiving, I will give in return to keep the cycle happening of the inner and the outer. I will give my gratitude. When I connect with a tree and I put my hands against the tree, or my forehead as well, I give gratitude for what that tree gives me. And it shows up for me in a shamanic process and a shamanic journey that was unplanned, and I was called to go and attend a breathwork, somatic, sound, and I ended up taking a profound shamanic journey. At one point, I was back inside that tree. That tree showed up for me and held me in strength and in certainty with a powerful shamanic process that I was going through. All the elements of what I do, then a beautiful loving hand touching my heart to help me to go deeper into what I was feeling and where I was journeying. So the gratitudes too grow your new neural pathways, as well as signal the field and create that cycle. The heart intelligence breathing, we've talked about this all the time. All these simple things. So now, more than ever before, the cutting of our cords, we must be consistent. And how much you apply this, the self-questioning, when you've been angry with someone else, when you're judging something in someone else, and we have to take a moment to go, okay, first I'm going to forgive myself for being angry because I acknowledge something deeper is going on. Then I'm going to ask for radical truth. I'm going to question. I'm going to go straight to source, and I'm going to ask the power question. What is it within me that I'm not acknowledging, that I've not yet been willing or able to see? What is it in me? What in radical truth am I really angry about? And anger comes from fear, and the fear of an unmet need. That's a thread to take you deeper. When you're judging something in somebody else, whether it's an intimate relationship or you're putting expectations upon them to be other than the perfect being and expression of themselves in any given moment that they are. If you're demanding someone else to change, there is something within you are not addressing. Radical honesty. And I can tell you now, from over 35 years of very consciously working on myself, but always being inquisitive and asking depth of questions ever since I could speak, because I am a being of curiosity, always have been, of the depth of how things work. As when I was a child, the existence of God, of extraterrestrial beings, or star beings, as I prefer to call them, of all things and all ways and all paths. I know beyond a shadow of doubt that when I have let go of the desire and the expectation for someone else within my life to change, and I create the change within myself, therefore I do not have the need for them to be other than the perfect soul expression within their human form of who and how they are in every moment, something profound takes place. They're in a space of freedom to change because the web of expectation has been removed from them. The hold from your judgments, the anchoring points we put upon them have been released. They're no longer held captive by us. And I have watched miracles and experienced miracles taking place within another. Now, some have left my life and some have gotten closer within my life. Some have been when I thought that I'd have to let go and release from love. The change within me is the release through love. And they have just suddenly, what seems like, turned into a completely different person, and depths of needs fulfilled in how they respond because I no longer required it. I've had this experience with my mother. I've had this experience with my father. And in order to be able to do that, we need to gather up and get into radical honesty in gathering up these fractured aspects of self that are calling out to us via all these vehicles of reflections held up before us, the expectations we project out from us, the emotions and the rage that we feel within us, and we start taking responsibility, start bringing radical honesty into it, calling source in for depth of truth, and we sit in the discomfort and we call on the skills that we've been learning. And at times we call out for the support required for someone that can take us through what feels like a challenging or overwhelming or frightening terrain. Listening to that inner voice of knowing is always also guiding us in the right direction, but make sure it is, beyond a shadow of doubt, your inner voice of knowing. Whole-bodied, absolute, beyond a shadow of doubt, knowing. Make sure it's not a fear reaction, a superiority elevation of self, and that you feel it, and that you have explored every aspect within yourself until you know it. I myself, with my personal journey that I've been doing, it's all been unfolding. I've shared posts about experiences I had on the cusp of turning 61 and a bath and an unexpected shamanic journey taken there. I can look back and see all the pieces of all the puzzle and the speed that it started happening with. The more I live, again, with the radical honesty and the constant application. Consistency is key. It opens the door. So even when I haven't felt like doing certain things, I've gone, do it anyway, or I choose one of my other tools. Why? And I say this to myself, why am I going to do this when everything in me is not wanting to? because I'm in a growth process, and this will expand me through it, move me through it faster. And how strong is my aspiration for what I'm moving into? How strong is that calling me? It's calling stronger than my fear, which I diffuse. It's calling stronger than my sabotage, which shows me exactly where I'm at, and then that brings excitement to the journey and courage to keep applying, to keep doing, to recognize that there is a terrain being crossed. One way of being melting away as a new form takes shape. Radical honesty. Radical honesty about where we are, what it means, what we need to do in order for where we need to go. I had an event that kept coming up on my social medias that was really resonating with me, but I don't take action till my knowing is absolutely clear. It was a somatic sound and breath event. I'm very particular. I don't do a lot with a lot of people unless I'm really deeply called, because I need to be very aware of who works with me, who guides me, what their energy is, where they're coming from. Needs to be deeply aligned. It was also on the day that it was my 18th wedding anniversary. But the knowing became so loud that there was no doubt that it was whole-bodied. So I had to have the honest conversation with my husband and say, I really need to be here, but I just want to check in that you're okay, that I go, and that we postpone our celebrations, and we will absolutely celebrate and acknowledge our wedding, because it wasn't just a wedding, it was a ceremony. It was sacred. Our vows were written with depth of intent. They were sacred. So it's not about a gift-giving day. We didn't give gifts. We did write cards. Cards and the written word are important in our family. That acknowledgement. And I went. And I was meant to be there because I was meant to take and cross the final threshold in my shamanic experience. And I was held in a space of integrity, of course, because my knowing sent me there, of power, true power, of skill, of nourishment, and of care, beautifully orchestrated and expertly guided and held. Our knowing, our inner voice of knowing, remember its source, its soul, our soul, and the successful self that knows the way. We need to listen. And in experiencing and living from radical truth, self-questioning, self-responsibility, calling source into the areas and places and spaces we're not yet been willing or able to see, in doing the work, in staying consistent, what do you think happens? That voice of knowing just becomes louder and clearer and stronger. And with the consistency and the radical honesty and the applications of all the things that we speak about, remember, they're not just concepts to live from. They're truths to be applied and journeyed with. And why would you do it? Why would you choose to find the courage to bring the consistency in? Why? Because it leads you to freedom. It brings you back into the feeling of wholeness, of purpose, of meaning. It brings you more fully into the present moment. So why would you not? That's the question I leave you with. Why would you not? So much love to you. Reach out if I can be of any support in terms of healings, subjects you'd like to listen to, or you're interested in my 12-week programs. Blessings. Join me on my next episode, and if you love this podcast, please subscribe by clicking on the plus button if you're on Apple, or like and follow on Spotify. Rate and review, and please share Inner Voice of Knowing with your friends.